You're Talking Books. I'm Michelle Martin. I love this book. I love the history of this book as well. I'm looking at the book What If by Randall Munroe, who is the creator of the XKCD website. A website which is a collection of Randall Munroe's comics, which grew out of his school notebooks. Can you imagine? Munroe decided one day, why don't I scan the doodles from my school notebooks and put them up on a website? That was in 2005. The comics took off, and not only did they really start selling in terms of t-shirts on Munroe's website, he was able to head full-time to a full-time position on just churning out the comic strips himself. And the strips look at all sorts of subjects, from love to economics to questions, scientific questions with their own in-house sort of jokes. So when Munroe decided he was going to collect some of the weirdest questions he received via his website and compile them into a book, that led to the birth of today's book pick for you, What If? By Randall Munroe. What are some of the questions that have been asked? I'm going to read you a question that gets submitted plenty of times. Here we go. What would happen if you set off a nuclear bomb in the eye of a hurricane? Would the storm cell be immediately vaporized? Think about it. Well, it turns out that the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration gets that question a lot too. In fact, they're asked about it so often, they've actually published a response. And here is the last sentence of that response. Needless to say, this is not a good idea. Appropriate response for a question like that. Now, here's another question featured in What If, the book. If you suddenly began rising steadily at 1 foot per second, how exactly would you die? Would you freeze or suffocate first, or something else? Now, I have to say, when I hiked to Mount Everest Base Camp, I was worried about altitude, and a variation of this question did pass through my mind. But here is the answer. If you suddenly began rising steadily at 1 foot per second, what would happen? First of all, 1 foot per second isn't that fast. It's substantially slower than a typical elevator. So at 5 to 7 seconds, you'd rise out of arm's reach. After about 30 seconds, you'd be 30 feet. That's about 9 meters off the ground. And that basically means this would be your last chance for a friend to throw you a helpline. After a minute or two of rising at 1 foot per second, you'd be above the trees. And for the most part, you'd still be as comfortable as you were on the ground. If it is a breezy day, it would probably get chiller thanks to the steadier wind above the tree line. After 10 minutes, you'd be above it all, but the tallest skyscrapers. And after 25 minutes, you'd pass the spire of the Empire State Building. If this is your kind of book, you just love answers to the most improbable scientific questions, and you'd like a good laugh because you don't take yourself that seriously, and you love a mix of science and statistics, and this is the book to pick up. What If? By Randall Munroe. Hilarious and very clever. This is Talking Books. I'm Michelle Martin.